Well, to actually say that someone took your answer, I can say someone took my answer. It was the correct answer. Facts are the facts. And just like my opponent and my friend here stated, that you have to make sure there is process before task. And just like he stated, the guards are there to make the children feel safe, not to feel threatened. But there's always a process that has to happen. So again, just like he said, that is something that the principal must take care of. And there is a process that has to go along with them taking care of. And once that process goes along, and once all of the facts are out there, and once the parents meet, once the students meet, then that's when you move on to the consequence. There are tiers of consequences. You have the first tier, you have the next tier, and then the third tier is basically expulsion. So it all depends on the facts. What we saw on the camera was only a tidbit of what actually happened. So it's like a math problem where there's sometimes when you don't have all the information, so you cannot solve that problem. But again, you must face the facts, process before task, make sure that the proper people are in place to make the proper consequences. And just like he said, the whole point is to make the children feel safe. I'm proud that that was not Penn Hills School District that was on the news. That was Woodland Hills. Let's understand that. And what part of my platform is to return academic excellence back to Penn Hills School District. And yes, behavior is part of that. If a student cannot behave in the classroom, then academics cannot be presented to the classroom. So it's very important that we understand that. That goes hand in hand with teaching the whole student. It's not just about the education, it's also about the social and emotional and the discipline that takes place. So again, he took my answer, but it was somewhat of the right answer. Just make sure that all the facts are there, process before task, right people in place to handle it, and the right consequences to fit that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Our next question is for council, and we're going to start with Mrs. Mister. And the question is, what would you do to improve the blighted areas or areas that are becoming blighted?
Okay, well, one of the first things that I would do in order to improve the blighted areas is a very obvious answer is to start cleaning up. That could be something as simple as going ahead and cutting the grass and picking up any garbage around the area. But a bigger long-term solution is to look at why is the area blighted in the first place. You may want to think about whether or not are people leaving their homes because they can't afford the taxes anymore. That could be an issue. And one way we could address that issue is providing tax relief to seniors. When I was going around talking to various community members as I was knocking on doors, many of the seniors kept telling me, you know, my neighbors are leaving because they can't afford the taxes in Penn Hills anymore, and I'm in a similar situation. And so one thing that I would do to help keep seniors in their homes is to provide a tax relief, like a tax relief grant for seniors who are having trouble making ends meet and paying those taxes. Another thing that we can do to improve blighted areas is to work with different community organizations. We have a litter pickup group. We have the Crescent Hill Civic Association. We have a Black Ridge Civic Association. And one thing that I would like to do is not only work with the existing community organizations, but help communities that do not already have existing organizations in place to create their own civic association. And I think that's really important if we're going to address any blight issues in our community, if we're going to help raise up parts of our community that aren't flourishing as well as we would like for them to. And in order for a chain to be strong, every link in that chain needs to be strong and secure. And so I want to make sure that if Penn Hills is the chain in this example, that every single community is strong, and that every single community has their own community organization that's going to keep an eye on their neighbors, is going to make sure that people have opportunities, that people are connected, and that no one falls through the cracks, and that includes any potential blight situation.
Thank you. Mr. Crestus,
right, sir.
same question. What would you do to improve the blighted areas or areas that are becoming blighted?
Well, friends, I think the big question is how do we get these blighted and delinquent properties back on the tax roll? Right now, they're just a nuisance. They're bringing in no income to our community. And the big question is, after so many years, once you have a property that's been delinquent for 30, 40 years, it's no longer advisable for anybody to invest in it. The tax bill's so high, the sheriff's sale would be astronomical. And actually, I have a personal story trying to turn around a very small delinquent property in Penn Hills. It's actually up on around 7th Street, right where Penn Hills and Verona meets. And I love gardening, and I said, you know what? I'm going to get a little piece of property up here. I'm going to plant some peach trees and what have you, because gosh, I love me some peach trees. So, God honest truth. So I went to the county to see how do I get this property. You know, I looked at the history, I looked at the deed. It was a very sad case where the house burned down. The owner unfortunately died and set fire. No one came to claim the property at all. It's been abandoned for 15 years. It's just overgrown with trees and whatnot. There are programs out there today in the community to flip those properties back into the taxpayers' hands. But unfortunately, they don't go far enough. So the county has a program where if I wanted to take on that property, they would sell it to me at a fair market value today. But then I also have to pay upwards of $4,000 on top of that to get that property, you know, get the title clean and through the different courts and what have you. For me in that instance, I can't afford to throw $4,000 on top of that. So what happens? My project doesn't go on, it's still sitting tax delinquent. So for me, the biggest solution is how can we work with the county to make these blighted properties more affordable for people like you and I who have ideas for that abandoned lot next to us. You know, maybe you're not into gardening, maybe you want to put a garage up. It doesn't matter what the project is. It's how can we make it affordable for you to acquire that property. Since you take pride in your home, you'll no doubt take pride in that new property that you purchase.
Thank you. Mrs. Sapp, same question. What would you do to improve the blighted areas or areas that are becoming blighted?
Well, I'd like to say, first of all, Penn Hills is a beautiful place. As I've been door knocking, and as you know, I've been on, I was the vice chair for the Democratic Committee, so I did a lot of door knocking over the last 6 years. I've seen neighborhoods in Penn Hills that I didn't even know existed. However, as I was recently walking, I noticed that there aren't a lot of blighted areas. There are some, but there are not a lot of blighted areas. So what I would like to do for those areas that are blighted, are becoming blighted, I would like to work more with the CDC. I would like to work more with the litter groups. I think embellishing our community will bring in more businesses. It will be more enticing for businesses to want to come into Penn Hills. I believe that we should crack down on code enforcement. They should do their job. They should, it's not our job, but that's their job. That's what they should be out doing. So I want to crack down on code enforcement to make sure that they're out, you know, finding these people, and also the Planning Commission. They do have some programs out here that are helping with the blighted areas and flipping these houses. Bottom line is, if you're not going to take care of it, then you're not going to renovate it, then we demolish it. Penn Hills is a beautiful place, and it's our responsibility as residents to keep it beautiful. We have litter groups out there. I got to give that shout out to the litter groups because they're out picking up the trash, making sure that these neighborhoods and communities stay beautiful, even with a rundown house next to it. They are taking